continuing our look at the SEC 2025 with Locked On Alabama host Luke Robinson. Luke, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show. What do you think about Alabama this year?
I'm excited. First of all, thanks for having me. But yeah, I'm excited. I think that this is going to be a good year. I'm loving the reports that are coming out of camp. I think that this has a chance to be Kalen DeBoer's team. Last year, there certainly was a transition period, and you go from the greatest college football coach of all time to anybody. There's going to be some difficulties. And while I think the Georgia game was absolutely phenomenal, I was there. It was a banana scene. It was just fantastic. And just, you're floating on air. And the very next week, you go down in the depths of the Marianas Trench with losing to Vanderbilt. So there were certainly some ups and downs. The LSU game to the Oklahoma game, the same thing. Then you go to Iron Bowl to the bowl game. Just a lot of ups and downs. I think those will be less and less, and I think the differential between those will be less and less. Look, nobody plays their best 15, 16, 17 games, however many you need to win a national championship now. So you play your best a couple of times, you play your worst a couple of times, and in between is what you are. And I think this team, it has a very high floor and a very high ceiling. So I think this is a team that could win a national championship.
I was going to immediately take you to a little bit of a rewind. You already sort of did that for me. First year at Kalen DeBoer, I think one of his biggest problems right away, right, is that he's not Nick Saban, and that's immediately going to turn into a lot of criticism from fans. They're certainly not going to give him as much leeway and grace. But then all of a sudden, they blow out Wisconsin at Camp Randall. They beat Georgia, become the number one team in the country, and the man could do no wrong. All of a sudden, you're hearing he's the next Saban, that he's going to be a multi-time national champion, and then the wheels start coming off. Losses to Vanderbilt. They looked really bad at Tennessee. Oklahoma, the bowl game was a disaster. As you look back, though, on 2024, 2025, what would you say are the three biggest accomplishments of DeBoer year one, and what were the three biggest downfalls of DeBoer year one?
Well, I mean, the three biggest downfalls I think are pretty easy. I think it's Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, and Michigan. I mean, you can throw Tennessee in there. Obviously, Alabama had some problems, but if you want to narrow it down a little more specifically, I think it's turnovers. That would be 1, 2, and 3 in my book, honestly, because if you cut Alabama's turnovers in half, specifically interceptions, I think Alabama's easily in the playoffs and maybe one of the top 4 seeds, because a pick 6 against Vandy was something that put them down 14-0 and made the hole a lot harder to climb out of. The pick 6 against Oklahoma, and then another interception that set them up really well in the red zone was a killer. And then the turnovers against Michigan, against a Michigan team that was not at full strength, by the way. Then you go to Tennessee. Alabama was on the verge of taking control of that game. They were in the red zone, deep in the red zone. They throw a pass. It wasn't a great pass. It's intercepted by Tennessee. They take it back out to nearly midfield, and the game really turned from that point forward. So it was great for me to hear that in this previous scrimmage, there were no turnovers. Now, we're just having to take word of mouth. Nobody saw that, but I don't think Kalen DeBoer is going to get up there and tell a story about that. So I think it's good. It's important to cut down on the turnovers. Now, in terms of accomplishments, I think those are a little bit easier. First of all, the Georgia win was absolutely huge. And I think it gives everybody something to hang their hat on, right? The LSU game, same thing. Although, looking back, the LSU game may have been some fool's gold because we still had a lot of problems. I think we wrote it off, number one, because we won so big, and number two, because it was the weather conditions weren't great, so we excused maybe some of the passing mishaps. And then, of course, the next week at Oklahoma, those things reared their ugly head. So, and then the other accomplishment, recruiting. I mean, he still put together, by some sources, the number 2, number 3, or number 4 class in the country. So while, I have a lot of Auburn friends, I do most of my work in Alexander City, which is right next to Auburn. And they were pounding their chest about how proud they were that they dominated the state of Alabama. And they did. That particular year, they did. There's no doubt about it. But I said, if you're looking for me to be sad, that's not going to happen because Alabama still ended up with the I would say number 3 class in the country, and I think they will still be fine. So that's the thing that is giving Alabama fans more hope than anything is that number one, he has shown the ability to win the big game. He's shown the ability to lose to teams he shouldn't, and that's not something we're used to. But he's also shown the ability to recruit. And if you can do those two things, you'll do well at Alabama.
Yeah, I was at the game at Tennessee, and maybe it wasn't fair when I said how the defense played well, right?
Yeah.
It was such a story of when half your team looks great and half the team looks like it's ready to go compete for a national championship, and the other wasn't. And that leads right into you were talking about turnovers. So I think let's now start to turn the page, to use a turn of phrase. It's local TV. You got to be a little corny sometimes, right? The guy who's maybe going to be the biggest reason on if Alabama commits turnovers or not is, of course, the starting quarterback. It very much looks like Ty Simpson's going to be the guy. At the time we're recording this is Monday, heading into this special. He's not been named yet officially, but it very much looks like he's going to be the starter. Do you feel like if he is named the starter, that Alabama's in good hands?
I do. I'll also be totally transparent. At when Keelan Russell committed and then ultimately signed with Alabama, I was thinking this is going to be Keelan Russell's gig. I really did. I believe in that kid that much. But Ty Simpson has sort of slowly but surely won me over completely. Now I love Ty Simpson being on the team. I do. He was a former 5-star himself. People forget that. He's also the son of a coach. I know he's working his tail off. His dad had an interview recently where he talked about, hey, I know he goes to bed at 9 and gets up at 5 in the morning to go to the facility to watch film because I'm a coach and I'm doing those same things. And I'm talking to him on the phone just before bed or just when he's getting up in the morning to go to the facility. So I think people are going to really be surprised at how good Ty Simpson is. A lot of people are judging him on the South Florida performance a few years ago, which, by the way, wasn't as bad as some people want to paint it. Number one, but number two, weather conditions bad. Alabama was coming off a loss to Texas in that game, and so you had a feeling like this crowd was trying to get its feet back under them. And ultimately, they went on to win the SEC title game, right? But I believe in Ty Simpson. I really do, and really. Ryan Williams appears to believe in Ty Simpson a lot. He's been singing his praises, and if Ryan Williams says it, I think all Alabama fans are going to get on board at this point.
Yeah, that whatever that guy says is gold right now. He is a bona fide star, and so let's talk about him. He's a superstar, man, and he's someone that birthed on the scene and on all the cliches in the world about how he's about his age, how young he was, how precocious he was. What are you expecting from Ryan Williams in 2025?
I expect a lot. Here's the thing: it's a little unfortunate. He's in the same class as Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State because that cat was pretty good in his own right. He's probably the best receiver in the country as a true freshman himself. And then his team won the national championship, and he was a big part of it. So he's going to get all the love. Totally get it. But Ryan Williams was on ESPN's preseason All-American team that was put out just a day or so ago. So he's getting love too. And there's something about Ryan Williams you just can't put your finger on. He's got that it factor. Now, Jeremiah Smith does too, but it's also easy to look at Jeremiah Smith. He's taller, rangier, maybe even a little stronger. And you just look at him and go, yeah, that guy's going to be an NFL wide receiver. If you just saw Ryan Williams, you might not even know, hey, he plays college football. You may think he's just a really in shape dude, right? But he has got something special about him. I'm with the AHSA radio network too, and I got to be there on the sidelines for his game against Mountain Brook and for the state championship in Auburn. And they had nothing they could do with him. There was nothing they could do. Anything he wanted to do, he was able to do, and it's hard to explain. And then the next year, now I know Saraland loses to Clay Chalkville in the state championship game in Tuscaloosa, but it wasn't Ryan Williams' problem. I mean, it was just one of those things. They played a really good team and they ended up losing. But Ryan Williams was still a star in that game. He's just he's a wonderkind, and I think he's going to have another big year, and I think he's going to even have a better year because his production dipped last year. towards the backside of the season, and it's no coincidence that's also when Jalen Milroe's uh, passing efficiency, and accuracy seemed to drop as well. So I think with a guy like Ty Simpson quarterbacking this team, I think Ryan Williams is going to even have a bigger year. I'm really predicting him to go well over 1,000 yards.
Is it is it unfair the amount of pressure that's going to go on this young man, on Ryan Williams? I mean, is it unfair that I'm thinking Alabama wide receivers and I'm thinking of Julio Jones and Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs and Devontae Smith, and I want to think that in a year's time we're going to be thinking about Ryan Williams in that same echelon? Is that unfair, or do you think it's justified?
No, I think it's totally justified. And at first, I thought you were going with this like, is this unfair to him? Do you think the pressure gets to him? I don't know. His nickname's Hollywood. If your nickname's Hollywood, I think you can take it. And the other thing is, I mean, here's a guy that's just always sort of done his own thing. I mean, he famously has painted his fingernails at times, which, hey, I'm not doing it. But, if Ryan Williams does it, it may start a trend. So he's just an interesting kid. He's a smart kid. I think he's known for quite some times. I'm not comparing him to this, so please nobody take this overboard. But I remember LeBron James being, a youngster and going, man, how is he going to deal with just going straight to the NBA and handling all this? He handled it pretty doggone well because he was groomed so well. He had a lot of people in his life that were helping him do well. And I think Ryan Williams has that too. He's known he's going to be good for a while. And there's people who know they're going to be good and then they take it for granted. And then there's those who can take it and really make something of themselves. And I think Ryan Williams is going to be one of those guys that does well in college. He's going to do well at the pros, and he's always just going to handle himself pretty doggone well.
I also want to zero in a little bit on the offensive line. Obviously, you got guys like Parker Brailsford, and you got guys like Caden Proctor. Offensive line was, again, another big picture question. Is Ty Simpson in good hands, while he is the one, once again, that is going to determine potentially whether this offense clicks and whether it really kills that turnover bug?
Yeah, I think the offensive line is going to be very good. Very excited about all the possibilities here. Cam Dewberry, who is transferring in from Texas A&M, Wilkin Formby. I think he got better as the year went on, and I think he's got a little bit more confidence now. You mentioned Caden Proctor. They've got some guys, some true freshmen that may come in and vie for some playing time as well. And the other thing is Alabama went out and got a couple of tight end transfers that weren't big names. I'm not trying to insult any, they just weren't like 5-star home run hits in the transfer portal world. One of them, the one that came from West Virginia, he caught one pass for 4 yards last year. And you think, oh my God, why would you go out and get this guy? Well, because they want him to block. That's really what they need. And maybe he catches 100 passes this year. I don't think so. I'd be shocked if he caught more than 5, to be honest with you. But this staff puts a lot of emphasis on, protecting the quarterback and using the tight end well, but not necessarily just have to be an all-time pass catcher. You've got to be able to block some. And I think some of these guys they went out and got will help in that regard as well. But I'm really bullish on this offensive line.
Let's flip to the other side of the ball now. Big picture defense, Kane Womack heading into year number 2 down in Tuscaloosa. Defensively, times look really great. At times, they just couldn't get off the field on the big third down, the big fourth down last year. How do you expect that unit as a whole to really pair out this year?
The one thing I'll say about that, I've heard a lot of folks say, hey, they couldn't get off the field, I think we all get that Vanderbilt game stuck in our heads and can't get it out. I think that's the one game where the defense just wasn't checked in totally. And I get it because they came off the Georgia game, but I'm also not used to it as a Bama fan because Nick Saban always said every game is the same and yada, yada, yada. But for the most part, the defense played well, even the Oklahoma game. Alabama loses that game in infamous fashion, but the defense for Oklahoma is really what the problem was. It wasn't the defense for Alabama necessarily. So I think this defense is going to be in really good shape. I love guys like Coy Russell. If James Smith can get healthy, he was held out of this last scrimmage, but I think he's going to have a big year. I love Tim Keenan, and I love the fact that Tim Keenan was taken to SEC Media Days because he's one of those guys that deserves his time in the spotlight. You could have taken Ty Simpson, you could have taken Ryan Williams or something like that, but he takes the guy that stuck around and does the dirty work and doesn't have the stats for it, but is also a huge Bama guy in his own right. And big fan of the defensive line. And, the defensive backfield, while young, I think in some spots, they've got a lot of talent. Dijon Lee is going to have a big year, I believe. And then, of course, Xavier Brown was great last year. Damani Jackson. I like Cam Coleman that transferred in from Utah, too. So, look, I'm high on this team. I'm not saying they're going to win a national championship, but I think they're going to be right in the thick of it.
We'll get to predictions in just 1 second, but we do need to touch real quick, I think, on special teams. When you have a team that is not returning Graham Nicholson, is not returning Burnup, is not returning Nealon Hibbett, long snapper, punter, kicker, all from the years previous. 3 really good players also in their own right throughout their careers at different times, by the way. Special teams wise, should Alabama fans rather, should they be nervous about what they're about to see? Or do you, from what you're understanding and hearing, is there something that Bama's got up their sleeve to really address those now gaps?
That may be the biggest question mark I have. I mean, Connor Talty's on the team. He's been involved. But Jimmy Stein, my co-host, and I talk about this on the podcast all the time. He may best be known so far for a big tackle he had on a kickoff against Mississippi State a few years ago. So that as a kicker, that's sort of weird thing to be known for, right? And yeah, boy, I was reminded of the punter situation yesterday, I guess, with watching the Saints play the Chargers, and James Burnap was out there punting for the Saints. I was like, oh yeah, we better start thinking about punters because you need them. You don't want to think about them, but you do need them. And then, ironically, J.K. Scott was also punting for the Chargers. I can't remember the last time 2 former Alabama punters were facing off against each other. But and then, yeah, long snapper, boy, you can't take that for granted. You sometimes, like a couple of years ago, Alabama can't take short snappers for granted. That was a problem in its own right. So, yeah, I think special teams is probably the biggest question for me. I think if anything can hold this team back, it could be something like special teams and the schedule. The schedule it's going to be a Herculean task for this team to get through some of these games, but I think they've got the makeup to do it.
Yeah. All right. You led right into it. It's a very tough schedule. Season prediction for Alabama in 2025, 2026.
Well, I try to save my official prediction for a little later, but I think right now I'm stuck on 10-2. 10-2, 100% gets you in the playoffs. 10-2 might be enough to be playing for an SEC title. I don't want to predict much past that, but I think this team has the talent, has the horses and the leadership to go deep into the playoffs if they get in the playoffs, and I believe they will. I think the schedule does set up nicely. I love the fact that Ty Simpson doesn't get a soup can at home to start out with. He has to go on the road and play a Power 4 team. Yes, Florida State went 2-10 last year. They've got their own set of problems, but it's going to be a raucous environment. I'm going to be there. It's going to be 115 degrees, I'm sure, and it's going to be tough. So it's going to be enough of a challenge for him to gain some confidence, or it's going to be enough of a challenge where I think the fans and the coaching staff too maybe will say to make a quarterback change. So I'm happy that he starts off with something that'll be pretty difficult relative to other season openers. But yeah, I think Alabama's going to do well in the non-conference, even though they've got 2 Power 4 teams. But, road trip to Auburn at the end is going to be very, very difficult. In fact, I very begrudgingly said that would probably be one of my 2 losses if I'm picking, just because I can see the setup now. Alabama's 10-1 going into Auburn, and let's say Auburn's got 7 or 8 wins, and they have an opportunity to make that, the 8th or 9th win, which would be the first time in a while they've done that. That place will come unglued the whole week. So I think that's going to be a tough place to play. But yeah, it's going to be a fun year, and I love having a schedule like this because it makes all the games a little bit more interesting.
Was trying to think as you were talking. I was like, what's his second loss? Most people are saying at Georgia. Okay, that's fair. I'm like, what would his second loss be? I'm like, is it LSU? Is it Tennessee? Is it a shocker in week 1? Auburn.
I'm going Georgia. I'm going Georgia, and I'll say this: I begrudgingly do that too, because I saw a stat today. Georgia's only lost 1 home game since 2017, and that was like a double or triple or quadruple overtime to South Carolina in 2019, I believe. But you know what? They also hadn't played Alabama at home in that time. And Alabama has been Georgia's bugaboo. Now, will it continue to be? I don't know. This Georgia team, while they are very formidable and while they probably have as much talent as anybody in the country, they got a young quarterback that didn't look so hot in their own right. They've got some question marks all over the place, and they haven't exactly been passing up a storm anyway. So I don't think it's crazy to think Alabama can go in there and win, but I do think I would be being way too homerific if I said a team that has to play LSU with Garrett Nussmeier, Florida State, Wisconsin, at Georgia, at Auburn, at Missouri, don't write them off. And Missouri starts off the season playing like their first 6 games at home, Alabama being the last one. Not to mention playing Diego Pavia and Vandy again, playing an LSU team with Garrett Nussmeier, playing Oklahoma with John Mateer. Man, it's a tough schedule, but I think 10-2, I would take it right now and just let the rough end drag.
It's funny. You just mentioned a lot of games, but you weren't mentioning the one I was thinking about. Is maybe the most underrated tough game at South Carolina.
Yeah, I almost said that one. I
Yeah,
really have,
that's a
because
tough one.
let me tell you, I've been there a few times, and it's a fun place to go. Here's the reason I'm not choosing South Carolina, and I don't want South Carolina fans mad at me, but I'm not as high on their season projection as a lot of people are. I love Lenore Sellers. I love Dylan Stewart. They got dudes. South Carolina has dudes. But I also can see they're like sort of limping into that part of the season. They've got a tough schedule too. And if things go sideways quickly, let's see how they handle that. So yeah, I think South Carolina is a glamour pick. I can see why people do it. But if I'm going to go 10-2, I'd say my losses are Georgia and Auburn.
There you have it. That's Luke Robinson, locked on Alabama. He's thinking 10-2. The Alabama Crimson Tide open up the regular season at Tallahassee, Florida. It is their first time opening with a true road game in more than 20 years. Kickoff is at 2:30 down in Tallahassee.